Admiral Kethver watched his world burn from the bridge of his dying ship. Through the great windows of the starship Eternal Dawn, he could see Sanctuary Prime below. The planet that had been home to 12 different alien races was now covered in black smoke and red fire. The cities where his people had lived and loved and raised their children were nothing but ruins. "Sir, the Eastern Defense Grid has fallen," reported Commander Veltar, her blue skin pale with fear. Her 4 arms moved quickly across the control panels, but nothing she did made any difference. The enemy was too strong, too many, too hungry. Kethver nodded slowly. He had expected this news. For 3 months, the Vorthak swarm had been eating their way across the galaxy. They came like a plague of metal insects, their black ships blocking out the stars. Every world they touched became lifeless. Rock. Every species they found became food. The Zephyrian Coalition had been the greatest alliance in the galaxy. 12 races working together, sharing knowledge and technology. They had built wonderful cities among the stars. They had created art and music and poetry. They had believed that intelligence and cooperation could solve any problem. They had been wrong. The Vorthak did not want to talk. They did not want to trade or learn or make peace. They wanted only to consume everything living. Their ships were not built but grown, like giant insects made of metal and flesh. When the Coalition's energy weapons hit them, the creatures simply adapted. Their skin grew thicker. Their shields became stronger. They learned from every attack and became harder to kill. "How many evacuation ships made it out?" Kethver asked. "Only 700, sir," Veltar replied, her voice breaking. "Out of 50 million souls on the planet." Kethver closed his eyes. 50 million people. Mothers and fathers, children and grandparents, artists and farmers and teachers. All of them now dead or dying while he watched from space, unable to help. The Coalition had tried everything. They sent their fastest ships to hit the swarm and run away, but the enemy was faster. They built bigger weapons, but the Vorthak just ate the energy and grew stronger. They even tried to reason with them, sending messages in every language they knew. The swarm's only answer was to attack harder. "Sir," called out the communications officer, a tall, thin being called Zorek. "We are receiving a transmission from the surface. It's the capital city's emergency center." "Put it through," Kethver ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was weak and full of static. "This is Dr. Yantel at Emergency Command. The swarm has broken through the final barriers. They are in the city now. We estimate 15 minutes before total overrun. Tell our people. Tell them we tried. Tell them we fought until the end." The transmission cut to silence. Kethver stared at the planet below. Somewhere down there, in those burning cities, the last defenders were making their final stand. Brave souls who could have run but chose to stay and fight so others might escape. They would all be dead soon. "Sir," Veltar said quietly, "the swarm fleet is moving toward us. They will reach us in 20 minutes. Kethver looked around his bridge. His crew was afraid, but they stayed at their posts. Good people, all of them. They deserved better than this. The whole galaxy deserved better." He walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. His people, the Zephyrians, had lived for over 1,000 years. They had explored half the galaxy. They had made friends with 11 other races and built a civilization that stretched across 100 star systems. All of that was ending today. The Coalition fleet was scattered and broken. Some ships had escaped to carry news of their defeat to distant worlds, but those worlds would fall too. The swarm never stopped, never slowed down, never showed mercy. They would eat planet after planet until there was nothing left alive in the galaxy. "Open a channel," Kethver ordered. "All frequencies, maximum range." "Channel open, sir," Zorek replied. Kethver took a deep breath. Someone needed to know what had happened here. Someone in the distant stars needed to understand what was coming for them. "This is Admiral Keffer of the Zephyrian Coalition Fleet," he began, his voice steady despite the fear in his heart. "We have fought the Vortex Swarm for 3 months. We have lost. Sanctuary Prime has fallen. Our cities burn. Our people are gone. To anyone who receives this message, know that we tried to stop them. We used every weapon, every tactic, every plan we could think of. Nothing worked. They adapt to everything. They learn from every battle. They cannot be reasoned with or bargained with. They want only to consume all life. The swarm moves toward the core worlds now. They have millions of ships. We estimate they will reach the Helix Nebula colonies in 6 months, the Inner Rim in 2 years. Prepare your defenses. Evacuate what you can. Fight them if you must, but do not expect to win. This is the end. We fought well. We die with honor. Remember us." He gestured to Zarek, who closed the channel. Outside, the first Vortex ships reached the eternal dawn, their weapons charged with hungry light, ready to add one more ship to their endless feast. Far away, at the very edge of the galaxy, a small exploration ship picked up the transmission. The beings on that ship had never heard of the Zephyrian Coalition. They had never seen a Vortex. They came from a small blue world where creatures fought each other for millions of years before they learned to fight together. They called themselves humans. Captain Sarah Chun stared at the message that had just appeared on her screen. She read it 3 times before calling her communications officer over. "Rodriguez, are you sure this transmission is real?" she asked. Lieutenant Rodriguez nodded. "Yes, ma'am. We picked it up 40 minutes ago. The signal is definitely from outside our galaxy. Someone out there is in serious trouble." Sarah looked around the bridge of the UES Defiance. Her ship was humanity's first real attempt at exploring beyond their own galaxy. For 6 months, they had been traveling through empty space, looking for signs of intelligent life. Now they had found it, and it was dying. "Play the message again," she ordered. The alien voice filled the bridge. Even through the translation software, Sarah could hear the sadness and fear in Admiral Keffer's words. This was a leader watching his entire civilization get destroyed. Somewhere out there, millions of people were dead or dying while their homes burned. "Ma'am," said her science officer, Dr. Kim Park, "our computers have analyzed the transmission. Based on the technology described, these aliens are far more advanced than us. If they cannot stop this swarm, what makes you think we can?" Sarah stood up and walked to the big window at the front of the bridge. Outside, she could see the distant lights of the galaxy where the message had come from. It looked peaceful from here, but she knew that looks could be wrong. "Dr. Park," she said slowly, "do you know why humans made it off Earth?" "Because we developed space travel?" Park replied, confused. "No," Sarah said. "We made it off Earth because we are too stubborn to know when we are beaten. Our whole history is full of people who should have given up, but didn't. We fought wars. We couldn't win and won them anyway. We survived ice ages and plagues and disasters that should have killed us all." She turned back to her crew. "These aliens sound smart. They probably tried to be reasonable and logical about this problem. They used their best technology and their best plans. And it didn't work," Rodriguez pointed out. "Right," Sarah agreed. "So maybe it's time for someone unreasonable to try." She activated the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Chun to Earth Command. Priority Alpha message. We have intercepted a distress call from an alien civilization under attack. Request immediate council meeting." The reply came back 18 hours later. Sarah's message had traveled faster than light, but it still took time to cross the vast distance between galaxies. When the response arrived, it was not what she expected. "Captain Chun," came the voice of Admiral Marcus Torres, head of Earth's United Defense Council. Your message has been received and discussed. We are sending the fleet." Sarah blinked in surprise. "Sir, did you say the fleet? The entire fleet?" "Every ship we have, Captain. The Yamato, the Churchill, the Crazy Horse, all of them. We are also loading up the marine transports with every soldier who volunteers for the mission." Dr. Park looked shocked. "Sir, we don't even know if we can help these aliens. We don't know anything about this enemy. Why would Earth risk everything on a single distress call?" Admiral Torres was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was serious but calm. "Dr. Park, 50 years ago, my grandfather was a Marine in the Pacific War. He once told me something I never forgot. He said that when you hear someone calling for help, you don't stop to ask if you are strong enough to save them. You just go." Sarah smiled. This was why she loved serving in the Earth Fleet. Humans were not the smartest species in the universe. They were not the strongest or the fastest. But they were the species that heard a cry for help from across the galaxy and said, "We're coming." "There is one more thing, Captain," Admiral Torres continued. "We have been analyzing the alien transmission. Their technology is indeed more advanced than ours. Their ships are faster, their weapons more powerful, their shields stronger. Then how do we fight this swarm?" Sarah asked. "The same way humans have always fought enemies bigger than them," Torres replied. "We don't fight fair. We use every dirty trick we know. We hit them where they don't expect it and keep hitting until they go down." Over the next 3 days, Sarah watched as the entire Earth fleet assembled around her ship. The big battleships arrived first, massive metal fortresses covered in weapons. Then came the carriers with their fighter squadrons. The cruisers and destroyers followed, sleek and fast and built for war. But what impressed Sarah most were the transport ships. Thousands of human soldiers had volunteered for this mission. They knew they might be flying across the galaxy to die fighting monsters they had never seen. They came anyway. "Captain," reported her tactical officer commander Jackson, "fleet assembly is complete. 47 warships, 20 transport vessels, and full Marine Expeditionary Force. Admiral Torres is requesting permission to begin jump sequence." Sarah looked out at the human fleet. Their ships were not as beautiful as what the aliens probably built. Human technology was practical, tough, and designed to keep working even when everything went wrong. Their weapons were simple but effective. Their armor was thick and heavy. Everything about human ships said the same thing. "We came here to fight." "Tell Admiral Torres he has permission to begin jump," Sarah ordered. "And send a message back toward Earth. Tell them that the cavalry is coming." The fleet engaged their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into the darkness between galaxies. Behind them, Earth's factories were already building more ships. More weapons, more of everything they might need for the long war ahead. Admiral Torres stood on the bridge of his flagship, the UES Yamato, and looked at the route to the alien galaxy. It would take them 2 weeks to reach the battle zone. He hoped they would not be too late. "Sir," asked his aide, a young ensign named Walsh, "what if we get there and find out the aliens are all dead?" Torres smiled grimly. "Then we make sure. Their deaths meant something, Ensign. We find these Vorthik and we teach them why you don't mess with someone under human protection." The human fleet raced through space toward a war they did not understand, to save people they had never met. Because it was the right thing to do. The human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sanctuary Prime system. What they saw made even the veteran soldiers curse in shock. "Dear God," whispered Admiral Torres from the bridge of the Yamato. "How many of those things are there?" The space around Sanctuary Prime was filled with Vorthek ships. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands. They looked like giant insects made of black metal and pulsing flesh. Some were as big as cities, others small and quick. Like angry wasps. They moved in perfect coordination, like parts of a single massive creature. Below them, Sanctuary Prime was dying. The planet's shields flickered and sparked as the swarm pounded them with weapons that looked like living things. Through the gaps in the defense, Sarah could see explosions lighting up the planet's surface. "Sir," reported Commander Jackson, "we are detecting a few surviving coalition ships hiding behind the planet's moon. They appear to be badly damaged." Torres nodded. "Signal the fleet. Battle stations. All ships prepare for immediate assault." "Doctor." Park looked up from her sensors, her face pale. "Admiral, there are too many of them. Our entire fleet is 47 ships. They have thousands." "Dr. Park," Torres said calmly, "do you know what the definition of a target-rich environment is?" Before she could answer, alarms started screaming across the human fleet. The Vorthek had noticed them. "Enemy ships turning toward us," Jackson reported. "They are forming attack formations. Estimate 300 ships moving to intercept." Torres smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Perfect. Signal all ships. Commence attack pattern Alpha. Show these bugs what humans do to bullies." The human fleet charged straight at the Vorthek formation. To any observer, it looked like suicide. The humans were outnumbered 7-1. Their ships were smaller, and their weapons were primitive compared to the aliens they had come to save. But humans had learned to fight during 10,000 years of war on Earth. They knew things about combat that peaceful civilizations never learned. The first Vorthek ships opened fire with energy weapons that could melt asteroids. The humans did not try to dodge. Instead, their thick armor absorbed the hits while they closed the distance. When they got close enough, they fired back. Human weapons were simple. No fancy energy beams or gravity manipulators. Just solid metal shells moving very fast, nuclear warheads with big explosions, and missiles that could think for themselves. The weapons hit the Vorthek ships like hammers hitting eggs. "Direct hit on enemy flagship," Jackson shouted over the noise of battle. "Their bio-armor is regenerating, but slowly." "Then we hit it again," Torres replied. "And again. And again. Keep firing until it stops moving." The space battle raged for 2 hours. The humans used tactics the Vorthek had never seen before. They rammed enemy ships with their armored hulls. They fired nuclear weapons at point-blank range, accepting damage to themselves to destroy the enemy. They coordinated their attacks like a pack of wolves, hitting the same target from multiple directions. Most importantly, they never stopped fighting. When a human ship was damaged, it kept firing. When its weapons were destroyed, it rammed the nearest enemy. When it was dying, it tried to take as many Vorthek with it as possible. The Vorthek had adapted to energy weapons and high technology. They had no answer for primitive, stubborn humans who refused to give up. "Admiral," called Captain Chun from the Defiance, "the planetary shields are failing. Enemy ships are moving to begin surface bombardment." Torres looked at the tactical display. Half his fleet was damaged, but they had destroyed over 200 Vorthek ships. The enemy was pulling back, confused and hurt. But there were still thousands of them, and the planet below was defenseless. "Chun, take your ship and the marine transports down to the surface. Start evacuating civilians. We will keep the big ships busy up here." "Sir, that is impossible," Dr. Park protested. "The planet has 50 million people. We cannot evacuate them all." "We will evacuate as many as we can," Torres said firmly. "Every life we save is a victory." Captain Chun guided the Defiance down through the planet's atmosphere, followed by 20 transport ships full of human marines. As they descended, she could see the devastation below. Entire cities were burning. The beautiful alien architecture was reduced to rubble and smoke. The Defiance landed in what had been a park in the capital city. The transport ships touched down around it, their ramps dropping to disgorge hundreds of human soldiers. Sarah was the first human to set foot on an alien world. She looked around at the destruction and felt anger burning in her chest. Whatever these Vorthek were, they were going to pay for this. "Captain," called Sergeant Rodriguez, her Marine commander, "we have survivors approaching from the east." Sarah turned and saw them. The first aliens she had ever met in person. They walked on two legs like humans, but they were taller and thinner. Their skin was blue or purple or green. Some had 4 arms, others had tentacles instead of hair. They looked tired and scared and desperate. Leading them was an alien in a torn military uniform. He approached slowly, his 4 arms spread to show he was not armed. "I am Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Coalition," he said in accented but clear English. "Are you the ones who answered our call?" Sarah smiled and extended her hand. "I am Captain Sarah Chun of the Earth Defense Force. We came as soon as we heard." Veltar stared at her hand for a moment, then carefully shook it with one of his 4 hands. "You came from another galaxy to help people you have never met?" "That's what humans do," Sarah replied. "Now let's get your people out of here." The evacuation began immediately. Human Marines spread through the ruined city, searching for survivors. They carried alien children in their arms and helped elderly beings who could barely walk. They shared their rations with hungry families and gave medical aid to the wounded. The aliens stared in amazement. These strange creatures from another galaxy had traveled impossible distances to save them. They fought with primitive weapons, but incredible courage. They showed kindness to people they had never seen before. "Captain Chun," Veltar said as another transport lifted off, packed with refugees, "why do your people do this? What do you gain from helping us?" Sarah looked up at the sky, where the space battle still raged. Human ships were dying up there, their crews sacrificing themselves to protect a world they had never seen. "We gained the knowledge that when the galaxy needed help, humans answered the call," she said. "Sometimes that is enough." Above them, Admiral Torres received a message from the surviving Coalition fleet. "Unknown vessels, this is Admiral Kethver. Who are you, and why are you helping us?" Torres smiled as he watched another Vorthek ship explode under human weapons fire. "This is Admiral Torres of the human fleet. We are here because someone called for help, and humans always answer." 3 weeks after the battle at Sanctuary Prime, Admiral Torres stood in the war room of the Coalition's temporary headquarters. Around a large table sat the leaders of 12 alien species, all staring at him with expressions ranging from hope to confusion. "Admiral Torres," said Admiral Kethver, "we are grateful for your help at Sanctuary Prime, but the Vorthek swarm has over 50,000 ships, spread across 100 star systems. How do you propose we defeat such numbers?" Torres smiled and activated the holographic display in the center of the table. "Admiral, you have been fighting the swarm like they are a normal enemy. You meet them in space, ship to ship, trying to match their technology and tactics." "Of course," replied Dr. Zenthara, the Coalition's chief scientist. Her purple skin glowed softly as she spoke. "That is how civilized beings conduct warfare. Honor, strategy, technological superiority." "Right," Torres said. "And how has that worked out for you?" The room fell silent. Everyone knew the answer. Torres pressed a button and the display changed, showing a map of Vorthek territory. "The problem is that you are fighting them the way they expect to be fought. The swarm has adapted to every conventional tactic because that is all they have ever faced." Captain Chun entered the room, followed by Sergeant Rodriguez and several Coalition officers. "Admiral, the reconnaissance mission has returned with intelligence." "Excellent," Torres said. "What did you find?" Chun activated her data pad. "The Vorthek ships are not just vessels, they are living creatures. They need to feed on organic matter to survive and reproduce. They also need to return to hive worlds regularly to receive new orders from their central intelligence." "Commander," Veltar leaned forward, "we knew this already. It is why they consume entire planets. Yes, Chun continued, but what you did not know is that they are completely dependent on this system. Cut off a Vorthik ship from its hive mind for more than 72 hours, and it becomes confused and weak. Torres grinned. Which brings us to the human way of fighting. We do not fight fair. We do not meet them where they are strong. We hit them where they are weak, when they do not expect it, and we keep hitting until they break. He changed the display again. The swarm expects you to defend your worlds and fight them in space. Instead, we are going to attack their supply lines. We are going to strike at their hive worlds. We are going to turn their own biology against them. Dr. Zenthara looked puzzled. How do you propose to do this? Their hive worlds are heavily defended, with the same tactics humans have used for thousands of years, Torres replied. Guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and psychological operations. Over the next month, human Marines began training coalition civilians in what they called irregular warfare. Instead of trying to match the swarm's military might, they taught small groups to hit fast and disappear. Sergeant Rodriguez stood before a group of young Zephyrians in a hidden training camp. Forget everything you know about honorable combat, he told them. Honor does not matter when your family is dead. What matters is winning. He showed them how to make explosives from common materials, how to sabotage enemy equipment, and how to set ambushes. Most importantly, he taught them something no coalition military academy had ever covered: how to be unpredictable. The swarm adapts to patterns, Rodriguez explained. So we never use the same pattern twice. Today we blow up a transport convoy. Tomorrow we hack their communications. Next week we poison their food supplies. They cannot adapt to chaos. Meanwhile, Captain Chun led a series of raids deep into Vorthik territory. Her ships used human stealth technology, primitive but effective. They hid among asteroids and space debris, waiting for swarm vessels to pass by alone. Contact, whispered her tactical officer during one such mission. Single Vorthik biocruiser, heading for the third moon. Perfect, Chun replied. Launch the special package. The special package was a human innovation that the coalition scientists had called impossible. It was a computer virus designed to attack biological systems. Human programmers had studied Vorthak neural patterns and created a digital infection that could disrupt their hive mind connections. The virus spread through the Vorthik ship's organic computers like a disease. Within hours, the creature was blind and confused, cut off from its fellow ships. It began to wander aimlessly through space, easy prey for coalition forces. But the human's most effective weapon was not technology. It was psychology. Admiral Torres had studied the swarm's behavior and made a discovery that shocked the coalition leaders. The Vorthek have never faced an enemy that scared them, he announced. They have always been the predators. They do not know how to be prey. To prove his point, he authorized Operation Nightmare. Human ships began appearing throughout Vorthik. Space, not to fight, but to be seen. They would jump into a system, let the swarm detect them, then disappear before the enemy could respond. The Vorthek became paranoid. They started keeping larger forces at their hive worlds for defense. They began jumping at shadows, wasting energy and resources on false alarms. For the first time in their existence, they were afraid. This is impossible, Dr. Zenthara said as she reviewed the intelligence reports. How can creatures that have conquered half the galaxy be frightened by a few dozen human ships? Torres looked out the window at the stars. Doctor, humans have been both predator and prey for millions of years. We learned something the Vorthik never did. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is not the strongest one. It is the one that refuses to play by the rules. The turning point came during the Battle of the Kepler Nebula. A massive Vorthek fleet was moving to attack the Coalition's remaining industrial worlds. Instead of meeting them head-on, Torres deployed his forces like a spider's web throughout the nebula. As the swarm entered the nebula, human ships struck from all directions. They used the gas clouds for cover, hit hard, then vanished. They targeted the Vorthic command ships with virus bombs and jamming devices. They turned the nebula itself into a weapon, using its radiation to mask their movements. "Admiral," reported Commander Jackson from the Yamato, "enemy fleet is breaking formation. They appear confused and disorganized." Torres nodded. "Signal all coalition forces. Begin the final assault." The coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace and struck the scattered Vorthic ships. Without their coordination and adaptation, the swarm was just a collection of powerful but isolated creatures. The battle was over in 6 hours. Admiral Kethvar contacted Torres after the victory. "Admiral, in 3 months you have taught us more about warfare than we learned in 1,000 years of peace. How is this possible?" Torres thought about Earth, where humans had fought each other for millennia before learning to fight together. "Admiral, we come from a world where war was a way of life. We learned to survive by being unpredictable, adaptable, and too stubborn to know when we were beaten. The Vorthic are strong, but they have never faced an enemy like us." "What do you mean?" Keffer asked. "They have never faced an enemy that enjoys a good fight." The Vorthic hive world was a nightmare made real. Captain Chun stared at it through the bridge windows of the Defiance as the combined human coalition fleet approached. The planet's surface was covered in writhing black metal and pulsing organic structures that reached up into space like the arms of a dying giant. "Jesus," whispered Lieutenant Rodriguez. "It looks like the whole planet is alive." "Because it is," replied Dr. Zenth Aura from her station. The coalition scientist had volunteered to join the final assault. "Our scans show the entire planetary mass has been converted into a single organism. The swarm's central intelligence is somewhere inside that thing." Admiral Torres's voice came over the communication system from the flagship Yamato. "All ships, this is Torres. We have one chance to end this war. The virus package must reach the planet's core, where the hive mind is located. Captain Chun, your team is our best hope." Chun nodded to her crew. "You heard the Admiral Rodriguez. Is the assault team ready?" "Yes, ma'am. 20 of our best Marines, plus volunteers from 6 coalition species. They all know this is a one-way trip." Chun looked around her bridge. Her crew had followed her across the galaxy and through impossible battles. Now she was asking them to fly into the heart of hell itself. Anyone who wants to transfer to another ship, speak now. No one moved. "All right then," Chun said with a smile. "Let's go kill a planet." The battle began with the largest space fight in galactic history. 10,000 coalition ships, supported by the entire human fleet, engaged the Vorthic defense swarm. The space around the hive world lit up with weapons fire and explosions. Admiral Torres commanded the battle from the Yamato, watching as his carefully planned strategy unfolded. "All human ships, execute pattern Omega, make them think we are trying to destroy the planet from orbit." The human vessels charged directly at the hive world, firing nuclear weapons and kinetic rounds at its surface. The Vorthic defenders responded exactly as Torres had hoped, pulling their forces in close to protect their most important asset. "Now," Torres commanded. "Chun, the door is open." The Defiance, disguised as a damaged coalition cruiser, slipped through the gap in the enemy lines. Behind it followed a dozen small human ships carrying the assault teams. "We are through the perimeter," Chun reported, beginning descent to the surface. The surface of the hive world was even worse up close. The ground moved like living flesh, and structures that might have been buildings or organs pulsed with alien light. The air was thick with spores and the smell of decay. Chun's ship landed in what appeared to be a valley between 2 massive organic towers. The moment the ramp dropped, the assault team rushed out into the nightmare landscape. Sergeant Rodriguez led the way. followed by humans and aliens working side by side. They moved quickly through passages that seemed to grow and change around them. The virus package, carried in a specially shielded container, was their only hope of stopping the swarm forever. "Contact front," shouted one of the Marines as Vorthok. Creatures poured out of the walls. These were not the ships they had fought in space, but the ground forms of the swarm. They looked like giant insects crossed with machines. All claws and teeth and hatred dot the battle through the hive worlds. Interior was brutal. The humans fought with their usual stubborn determination, while their coalition allies proved they had learned well from their human teachers. They used explosives and ambush tactics, turning the swarm's own tunnels against them. Commander Veltar, fighting beside a human marine, watched in amazement as his people adapted to the human way of war. "6 months ago, we would have tried to reason with these creatures," he said as he threw a grenade into a group of attackers. "6 months ago, you did not know any better," replied the Marine. "Now you know that sometimes the only answer to a bully is a punch in the face." The team fought deeper into the planet, following the readings on their scanners toward the Central Intelligence. Behind them, the sounds of battle grew fainter as they moved away from the surface. Finally, they reached it. The heart of the hive world was a vast chamber filled with a pulsing brain the size of a city. Neural pathways like rivers of light connected it to every Vorthak creature in the galaxy. This was the mind that had ordered the death of billions. "There," Shun said, pointing to a cluster of nerve centers. "That is where we placed the virus, but the brain had sensed their presence." The chamber filled with the most dangerous Vorthak creatures they had yet faced, bioforms specifically designed to protect the hive mind. "Cover me," Rodriguez shouted as he sprinted toward the target with the virus package. Human and coalition soldiers formed a protective circle around him, pouring fire into the attacking creatures. Rodriguez reached the neural cluster and began to attach the virus device. Around him, his friends and allies fought and died to give him the time he needed. The package clicked into place and began to upload its deadly cargo into the hive mind. The effect was immediate. The great brain began to convulse as the virus spread through its neural networks. Across the galaxy, Vorthak ships suddenly stopped moving as their connection to the Central Intelligence was severed. But the brain fought back. The chamber began to collapse as the dying mind tried to crush the intruders who had poisoned it. "Chun to all teams," the captain's voice crackled over the radio. "The job is done. Everyone to the extraction point now." Not everyone made it out. Rodriguez and half the assault team were lost in the collapsing tunnels. But their sacrifice had meaning. As the human and coalition survivors reached their ships, the hive world began to tear itself apart. 3 days later, Admiral Torres stood before the Coalition Council on the restored world of Sanctuary Prime. The war was over. With their hive mind dead, the remaining Vorthak had become nothing more than confused animals, easily contained by coalition forces. "Admiral Torres," said Admiral Keffer, "the Council has voted unanimously to offer humanity full membership in the coalition. We owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Torres smiled and shook his head. "We did not come here for membership or rewards, Admiral. We came because it was the right thing to do." "Then what do you want?" asked Dr. Zenthara. Torres looked out. "The window at the stars. Permission to continue exploring. There is a big galaxy out there, and we have only seen a small part of it. Who knows what other people might need help?" The coalition leaders looked at each other in amazement. These humans had saved their entire civilization, and all they wanted was to continue their journey of discovery. "But Admiral," Kethver said, "surely you want something for your people. Technology, resources, territory. We want to know that if someone else sends out a distress call like yours, the galaxy will answer," Torres replied. "We want to know that we helped create a place where the strong protect the weak, where advanced civilizations help primitive ones, where no one fights alone. 6 months later, Captain Chun stood on the bridge of a new ship, the UE's Explorer, as it prepared to jump to an unexplored sector. Behind her, a mixed crew of humans and coalition species worked together at their stations. "Captain," called her communications officer, "we are receiving a transmission from the Outer Rim. It appears to be a distress call." Chun smiled. "Set. Course for the signal. Best speed." As the ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, Chun thought about the galaxy they had helped create. It was a place where a call for help would never go unanswered, where differences in species and technology did not matter. When people were in danger, it was a place where humans could be proud to call home. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When the darkness comes and hope seems lost, sometimes what you need is not the most advanced civilization or the most powerful technology. Sometimes, you just need someone stubborn enough to fight the impossible fight and kind enough to fight it for strangers. Sometimes you need humans.